hot topic in Formula One right now is Mick Schumacher and Guenther Steiner, and what the real drama is behind the two. It's really been coming from Guenther Steiner's end, the actual drama part about it, but let's speak about the two and why this is really happening right now, and why Guenther is so adamant on talking about Mick and how they had to make him leave the team. Mick Schumacher drove for Haas in 2021 and 2022. And 2021 was practically a write-off for Haas because they did not even update the car from its 2020 predecessor and were about 3.5 seconds behind the whole entire grid for most of the year. That car was atrocious. Very bad, and could not even get a single point. Even in a Hungary where there were only 12 finishers, the Haas could not get up into the points. I mean, it was an awful year. But why I'm mentioning 2021 and 2022 is because if you actually look at the costs that Mick Schumacher costed from damages alone in 2021 and 2022, he was the driver that was the most expensive in both years. He had big crashes in Saudi both years, had a big crash in Japan in practice, which we will go more into depth about, and had a pretty big crash in Monaco of 2022. While he did destroy his teammate in 2021, even though Mazepin wasn't really that much of a threat, he was a bit behind Magnussen, but had the better of him in the second half of the season. Even if it didn't come through points, through pace alone, Mick Schumacher was the faster of the two. Before we get more into this video, thank you all so much for the support, and I love you guys. You guys are amazing, and thank you so much for giving me so much support and really just love on the channel. If you're not subscribed, please do. I almost upload every single day of the week, and please like the video and comment whenever you can. Let's get into the Haas drama. So Guenther Steiner has recently brought up again the Mick conversation. Considering we're in the off season, Guenther's got to point really the attention in his way, in one way or another. So he pointed it by saying, first of all, there were comments on his Drive to Survive comments and that he was very adamant on that Mick needed to leave and how they really treated him in that really Haas video with how he drove in Baku, and that him leaving was justifiable. Sure, if we look at the 2023 season right now and we see how successful Nico is, it does look like the right call. And I'm not saying it's not, but I am not a fan of how Guenther is really going about treating his driver, especially when he left and on good terms. Mick Schumacher is the son of the famous Michael Schumacher, and really a good kid. I mean, he's a good kid, a great driver, who did not have the best of luck in Formula One. And I feel like Haas was not the team he could have joined. He had the potential in 2021 of joining either Alfa Romeo or Haas, and he actually ended up deciding going for Haas. Which, if you look at most drivers' outlooks, they probably would have picked that Haas team over Alfa many days of the week, because Alfa was super far behind, and Haas had its moments in the very beginning of the year, especially in scoring points. 2021 comes around, and they pick up also Mazepin, and you end up getting a driver lineup that's two rookies and pretty crash-happy rookies. While Mick wasn't crashing every race, when he did crash, they were very big shunts. The one I'll specifically talk about is Jeddah in 2021. He practically totaled the car. He was able to compete, but the car was completely totaled and a complete write-off. And if you actually look at the money that he ended up spending in that season, Mick was the most expensive at about $4 million. With actually Charles Leclerc running pretty close. I will use this comparison again. In 2022, he crashed again in Jeddah, but specifically the moment I want to bring up is Japan, because it was in a practice session where Haas decided to actually put him out in a completely wet and rainy race, where the team actually clarified, we want you out for data purposes, because it was forecasted to actually rain on the race, so Haas wanted that data. So it was a decision made by Haas, not by Mick to go out. It was a decision made by the team, so Mick followed orders and went out and did that. While driving on an in-lap to come right back in when the session was red flagged and towards the very end of it. I mean, I don't know if it was red flagged, but it was towards the end of that session. Mick was coming in the car aquaplaned and fell into a barrier and practically totaled the car yet again. He was not driving fast, but the car aquaplaned and picked up water. Guenther talks about this being an embarrassing moment and cannot even speak about how a Formula One driver is able to achieve something like that. And really talks about it in a pretty brutal way, if I'm being honest. I mean, I'll give you the quotes up on the screen. And it just made me think, Guenther has a lot to say for keeping drivers like K-Mac, who had a lot of crashes throughout the years, and even bringing them back, and having a driver like Roman Grosjean, who crashed the car every other race. Now, I'm not saying you should treat a driver regardless of how they crash the car or what they do in the car in a bad way, because I think that this is just being a bad team principal. And it's why he gets a lot of stick among actual F1 fans that follow the sport adamantly. If you're somebody that follows the sport from really the Drive to Survive series, you can see that initially Guenther comes off as a very funny guy. He's very jokey. He just kind of makes like drama for fun. It's not really what happens though. He does treat his drivers in a pretty bad way, and he doesn't really have much respect amongst the paddock. And other team principals feel this way. Treating a driver in this position and really saying these types of words makes no sense. And I actually agree with Toto. If Michael Schumacher was still around to say something, I feel like Guenther wouldn't even dare to peep a word. But with the certain situation that is happening right now, he's got a big mouth and he says a lot. And I feel like it's very unfair for somebody who's as good as Mick, and I really hope he comes back with a huge redemption, especially against the Haas team. What are you guys' thoughts on the situation happening right now, and do you guys agree with Guenther? Do you guys agree with actually Mick being out of the sport? I guess that's a separate topic for a different video, but let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe, it would mean the world, and peace.